Hi, my name is Tara Walrod, and this is my Module 16 Missing Booster Club Funds. What do I know about the case? Well, first and foremost, I know the school has a change in population and socioeconomic levels recently. I know there's only one administrator, Mr. Stevens. I know that at school events there are 2 parent volunteers that run the concession stand and 2 that run the ticket sales. I know Ms. Bowman is a disgruntled parent at the PTA because they won't pay for her daughter's cheerleader trip. I know Ms. Bowman's volunteered and sold tickets at the basketball game. I also know Ms. Bowman collected a $50 bill from Mr. Dumas that was not in the bag. I know Mrs. Bowman handed the bank bag over with a note that 10 tickets were torn and, in her words, discarded. And I know the ticket proceeds balanced with the assumption that the 10 tickets had been discarded. What do I need to know? I need to know who worked the tickets with Miss Bowman. How much of the time did Miss Bowman have the bank bag by herself? I know it noted that she brought it to Mr. Stevens. Did the other volunteers see the 10 tickets that were torn and discarded? And if so, did she witness or he witness where they went? Where are the torn tickets? What is the policy or procedure for torn or unused tickets? Were there any bigger bills than a $50 bill in the bag? For example, maybe that $50 bill was used for change for $100. And what are the district procedures when theft occurs by a PTA volunteer? So the overall arching problem in my mind is that there's this parent volunteer, Mrs. Bowman, who was working the ticket sales, and that right now there is a $50 bill missing, and there are 10 pre-numbered tickets missing. So a plan of action along with implementation. My first action is to check the bag just to be sure there were not any bigger bills than a $50 bill. For example, a $100 bill that could have used the $50 for change. If there's not one, then obviously move on to the next step. Second, I would check the written policies and procedures regarding tickets just to make sure that I have that noted. So how are torn tickets supposed to be handled? I know in most schools they're supposed to be secured, not discarded. I would also make note of the procedure, and I would also make a note, maybe a picture or some kind of, or keep the note that was left by Miss Bowman about the 10 tickets. I would also find out if all volunteers prior to volunteering have been notified of torn ticket procedures, and that would include Miss Bowman. Next step is to check the volunteer records to see who volunteered with Miss Bowman. If there's an event coordinator, I would check with the coordinator regarding the volunteer list. And then talk to the other ticket volunteer regarding the 10 tickets. What did he or she see in regards to the tickets? What procedures were taken? What was observed with the 10 tickets, 78 through 88 specifically? Were they discarded? Did she notice they were pocketed? What happened there? Did he or she have any type of discussion, maybe when it happened, like, hey, these are torn, what happened between the 2 of them? I also would talk with the other volunteer about the $50 bill. It noted this, and obviously that was well known, so I would want to know what was observed in that situation. Did they hand over the $50 bill just to make sure that took place? And then if after talking with the event coordinator and the other volunteer, I feel a theft has happened, then as the administrator, I need to contact the district or county office in order to know what steps need to be taken with Mrs. Bowman. All conversations and steps throughout this entire process should be documented as to time, place, and what the conversation was. I also think it's important to involve district since this possibly could be a theft investigation. And this would be a good time to review and train volunteers and staff on ticket procedures to see if any procedures need modified, to be assured people know and understand procedures. So I would implement that by modifying any procedures that need to change, and then also the administrator consider supervising, not just the event, but also spending some time with the ticket sales and concessions, just maybe making themselves present, and that way I could feel a little more assured that procedures are being followed. The resolution is based on promoting the success of all students and includes data from the case as rationale. Well, number one, the Booster Club requests 4 volunteers in order to protect the proceeds from the concession stand and the ticket sales. So this data illustrates a commitment to assuring that money is collected with an intent to help students, because you have all these people. Having safeguards like 2 people at the tickets and 2 people in the concessions make people more accountable for their actions, and it also provides witnesses to situations when something, like in this situation, is off. In this case, it's 10 missing tickets. For the resolution, the other volunteer could be a critical part to figuring out if tickets were or were not discarded. Another big piece of data in this resolution included that of Mr. Stevens not allowing the request of Ms. Bowman. She wanted to spend almost $800 of the PTA funds for 1 student. This is not in the best interest of all students. So although Ms. Bowman is an active parent volunteer, and her children obviously have had some success in sports and cheerleading, a PTA needs to make sure their funds are always used for a majority of students. Another piece to consider is that although the parent's disgruntled, it doesn't automatically imply that she stole the money. As of right now, all of this is circumstantial. So that's why it's important to find out more information and make sure procedures are followed carefully, and that's why I would report it to the district. Number 3 was that the reconciliation was done immediately for the concession, the inventory and the money was looked at, and for the ticket sales and money. It was done by 2 people. There was an administrator and the security guard upon acquiring the big bag. This shows due diligence in not wanting to reconcile and deposit the money. Thus, if theft has occurred, steps can be taken now. We don't have to wait. Also, the problem can be dealt with and not continue game after game after game before anyone really realizes. It also makes sure that money is constantly going to students and not being stolen by volunteers. And as part of the resolution, it's important to take quick steps to resolve and having procedures that inventory tickets and concessions immediately following the event. Again, not waiting. So in debriefing the problem, what am I thinking, feeling, evaluating, and also including some unresolved or open for further investigation questions? I was thinking, number 1, Ms. Bowman has volunteered numerous times, and it appears she's always been honest. So is it possible that she could be so disgruntled that she would actually take the money? Number 2, Mr. Stevens seems incredibly thorough with procedures, from his reconciliation, having a security guard there. Those are really sound procedures, and that can help with theft discovery and evidence. And then I was also thinking, how would one prove the tickets weren't discarded? The lesson here might be in making sure all volunteers are trained, because I'm not sure one can prove she took the money unless the other volunteer observed something. We knew for sure Ms. Bowman knew the procedure and didn't follow it. I was feeling disappointed that if a mother was upset that stealing would not be the way to handle the situation. I was feeling pleased that the administrator and the PTA had solid procedures for volunteers. 2 at the gate, 2 in concessions. That way. And then I also felt the procedure of having tickets and concessions inventoried right after the game. That money was immediately turned over to the principal and security guard for reconciliation, for a night deposit. All of that seemed very sound and a good way for a school to handle finances after a game. And I was also feeling glad that even though the population and the socioeconomics had changed for the middle school, parents and community seemed to continue to support the school. What do I value? I value procedures being in place and followed. I also value proof. I value parent support and volunteers that give their time and money to support the school. So even though in this case there remain some unanswered questions, this doesn't seem to be an ongoing problem since the principal trusts his parents in the roles of collecting money on a regular basis. I also value students and the need to continually work to support student activities, academics, and other necessary funding that's able to happen through events like basketball games. In reflecting on Standard 8, promoting the academic and personal well-being of every student by ensuring effective and efficient management of the school or district to promote social and academic learning, when I was reflecting on this, management is obviously the overall theme. And as an administrator, I must not only meet the academic, social, emotional needs, and college career readiness of students, I also have a very important role of managing and operating the school. So efficient management would include the action of creating and following procedures, constantly modifying and changing them to meet the operational needs of the school. So in this scenario, the ticket procedure would be the key procedure to examine. And by establishing and editing procedures, I'm better able to manage. And in this case, the financial responsibilities of being an administrator and discovering theft or any kind of misconduct might occur. So not only is that efficient management, but also maintains a positive and productive learning environment for kids. When I look specifically at effective and efficient management of the school, effective management is shown because the administrator can't supervise, run the concession stand, take the tickets. Thus, in this case, it is clear that he trusts his volunteers and procedures in place. The case shows strong evidence of procedures. Number 2, Ms. Bowman did leave a note regarding the 10 tickets. However, the administrator still questioned the situation due to the $50 bill. So I'm not sure what the procedures in place were for torn tickets or if she knew about them. So that's still in question, but the $50 bill missing is evidence. But through thorough procedural safeguards of reconciling the money, he was able to deduce a possibility that there might have been theft. And this to me shows efficient management. And also, he has the second person, the security guard, to count, reconcile, witness, deposit the money. All of that is an effective way to assure the community that the money wasn't taken by the administrator. So that's an effective operational management strategy. When I also look at Standard 8, the social learning of every student, the school supports and promotes sports such as basketball, volleyball, track, cheer squad. The Booster Club works with the administrator to provide these types of social extracurricular activities, and all of that promotes social learning for kids. The administrator did not cave to Ms. Bowman's request of spending almost $800 for one kid. He used the comparison of an academic camp, which I loved, because money from PTA should support a majority of students, not just one. So this, too, promotes the social learning of many students, not a single student. And the administrator supervised the game and then worked with the Booster Club to collect the money immediately following. So this money goes to promote social learning of students. And it shows a commitment to making sure all money is collected and deposited. So for me, Mr. Stevens has a commitment to staying after school, supervising, and making sure the money is bank deposited, and it promotes social learning of kids. As far as academic learning, the PTA said it had a long list of volunteers for extracurricular events, but it also had reading buddies. So that illustrates a partnership between the community and the administrator, and obviously a commitment for parents to academic success of students. The administrator's example regarding a summer academic camp, as far as when they were comparing it to the cheerleader, showed that his vision is that cheerleading is not more important than an academic camp for a strong student. And the study continually mentions that the community involvement remains strong. This is illustrated through the administrator's work with the PTA, the number of volunteers the school has, both for extracurricular and academic. But the one that stood out to me was that it said that a textile mill community member came to the game, brought their paycheck or their $50 bill pay in order to come to the game. And to me, it is community involvement that is key to academic learning. So that promotes the academic learning of all students. Overall, be diligent with policies and procedures. And being an operational manager is an important piece of being an administrator. So having policies and procedures, continually modifying them in order to better meet the needs of the school is so important. Thanks so much.